I, I forgot to record. Nevertheless, so basically, there's no time slice here, right?
Yes, yeah.
So it means that now there is no predictability, right? Okay, so basically, if let's assume there are two jobs. Okay, suppose this takes 10 seconds, and there's another job which takes 20 seconds. So this job will, now you note that CPU will be available all for this job, because shortest remaining time first, at any point in time it will not be remaining time for this job will be smaller than remaining time for this job, which is 20 seconds. So it means this guy will never get a chance to execute.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
as per this hence what we say is that now suppose there are two jobs of 10 and 20, this takes 10 seconds, so cut it with 10 millisecond, and then give this 10 millisecond, and then second one give 10 millisecond, then first one again give 10 millisecond, and so on and so forth. Okay, so, and then if suppose there is a small job which does not require 10 millisecond, then give next job a chance to run. Okay, so there's a method. So it means that every job gets a chance. It's like, very similar to as I give an example that everyone, there are four friends, then your mother will give each one chapati in cycle. The other method is that give one person four chapatis, and then wait, other people have got to wait. Okay, so that's a kind of first method that we studied, batch way. Okay, batch systems. Okay. So, and then we have seen, now we cannot do priorities. See, in any system there are processes which needs to prioritize. Okay, you cannot give everyone the same priority, because there may be process which need not finish time immediately. Like garbage collection, right? All the cleaning of data structures, OS process, some, like when process is created, then we have seen this lot of data structures are there which are in runtime stack, right? Now when process goes off, then some data structures remain, but somebody has to clean it. Who will clean it? Data structure, it's OS job, right? So that cleaning work, does it require immediate priority? No, there may be more higher priority jobs, but it has to be scheduled sometime or other. Otherwise the memory will be full of process data structures corresponding process that have died. All right, so there has to be priority, but priority is required. That's a real life thing. I mean, when you are in hospital and waiting to meet a doctor, and then there's a patient comes with serious, then immediately doctor needs, then that there is a priority there, that you will yourself will give priority to the patient who needs to see doctor, right? So priority is a real life issue. Okay, and then we have seen that we can create priority using multi-level queue, and we say that the highest priority, then we have linked list, or kind of circular list, sorry, linked list here. Maybe here we can, if the time slice, we can do a round robin here. Okay, and then until all of these jobs are complete, as long as there is any job, it has to complete first before chance is given to next level job. Now do you imagine that if suppose you say that shortest job first kind of scheme you have to give priorities, most interactive jobs should be given priority. Okay, normally that's the way. So so what may happen, that if there is huge number of interactive jobs and they keep coming, then jobs at lower level will never get a chance to run, because there will always be a job here at the top level. So this scheme will cause something called starvation. Okay, all right. Okay, now so it means that there is a problem here, and then we have seen there could be also problem of priority inversion or deadlock, wherein suppose this job here, this job gets chance to run in CPU, and meanwhile some other jobs come in here. Okay, and this is using a mutex or lock. Okay, so there is a lock on something, and then it gets swept out. Okay, because higher priority job has come in. Now this job, for example, this job here also wants same lock. It may want a lock on same variable. Then obviously it's held by this one. So it means that now this cannot move forward because waiting for lock to become free, and this will also not free the lock because this will never get a chance to run, because CPU will be given always to a higher level job. So as a result, there can be a deadlock. Okay, so these two problems are there: starvation and deadlock. All right. So now we have to solve this problem, right? And we'll see how to do this. So one way is that we can create, we have done the multi-level queues here. Can we create some kind of mechanism where priorities can change? See, as long as we have static priority assigned to jobs, we will have these two problems. Okay, starvation and deadlock. Now, can we do something around it? That's what we'll study today in very short. We'll not go into great details, but we'll try to solve the problem. Okay, so we have seen this, that when we have strict priority or static priority, then we have starvation. So it means that, for example, right in the beginning, there must be some mechanism here to say that these jobs are highest priority based on some policy, right? And this policy, if the policy is very static or strict about it, then nothing much can be done. So if we say that the priorities are not static for the lifetime of a process, so when process comes, a new process is created and the priority is seen, and if you say if OS keeps the same priority of the process during the lifetime of process, then nothing much can be done. Okay, so there must be a mechanism to change the priority, and which OS of course can do it, because where is the priority information is there for a process? Anyone?
In the process control block.
Very good, in process control block, right? So OS can always change the priority of a process. Okay, so now we can, now with this knowledge, we can have better schemes, right? So scheduler can decrease the priority of current running process. So it can see if the current running process is taking too much time, then it can move it to the next level. Okay, so from the top queue, it can move to lower queue. And if still it's taking a lot of time, then it can move to further lower queue. Okay, so any job which is taking too much of CPU, after some certain time in top level queue, it can move to, and it's not finished work, then it can, priority can reduce. Okay, and so we can think of number of schemes. Now other scheme could be scheduler can keep track of low priority processes that are not getting chance to run, so it can increase the priority also, right? So there are a number of ways we can now think of. So let's look at the one simplest way, which is called multi-level feedback queue. Okay, here the word feedback has come in, right? So multi-level queues with no strict priority or static priorities, right? So scheduler is allowed to change the priority process, so priorities are dynamic. So basically, so note that this is just one way. Okay, so basically two simple rules for this method is, whenever a new process is created, it will be given highest priority. Okay, it will be in highest priority queue, the topmost queue. Okay, and then if process does not finish its time quantum, it means that process is given a time quantum, say q, and within q it has an IO. It means that now process will be context switch, the process remains in that queue. Okay, and if it consumes the time quantum, it means that there is no IO happened and process completes its time quantum, and it needs more time quantums to complete the process. So the time quantum is consumed, then move the process to next priority level. Okay. So so now with this we can note that highly interactive process will not use its quantum, because in between there will be IO. Considering the quantum time is reasonable. Okay, so it will remain in high priority level. Okay, so it basically more interactive jobs will remain in high priority level for longer period of time. However, CPU is allowed to, kernel context switches whenever there is IO. So it will look something like this: is highest priority queue, next priority queue, and this is lowest priority queue. So now one way to design it as follows: have just 3 queues. Note that this is one way. There can be, it's OS dependent if this algorithm is used. So Q0, this is a queue called Q0, this is Q1, this is Q2. Okay. All right. So all right. So here in this queue there will be jobs. Whenever this new process is created, we'll put into this one. Okay, for topmost queue, and then it will be the given quantum of 8 milliseconds. Okay, and then there's the second queue here, which we call as Q1, and then it will be given 16 milliseconds. And then there is a Q2, wherein process will be given time till completion. Okay. Now you can always argue that why this is so. You can of course design your own and do simulation and then find out whether it works for you or not. Okay, and then this is a round robin. It means that it works in round robin way. You understand now what round robin is. So, all right. So the scheduling is follows: the new process enters Q0, which is served in round robin way, and when it gets CPU, it receives 8 milliseconds. Okay, so if it does not finish 8 milliseconds, then process is, if it does not finish 8 milliseconds, process move to Q1. Okay, just a minute. If it does not finish 8 milliseconds, then it remains in Q0. I'm sorry, there should be change. So when it finishes 8 milliseconds, then it moves to next level. Okay, so basically it's round robin. If there is IO within 8 milliseconds, it will go to the, when IO is completed, it will put back into ready queue for this one, or to the back of the queue. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. So let me rephrase it. Okay. See, if process, a new process comes, first put into this queue, and let's assume that gets CPU, and then it becomes IO. It gets IO, then it put back into the same queue. Let's assume that now this is right, but slightly I should word it differently. If the whole 8 if there is process which has entered, which takes full 8 milliseconds. Okay, if does not finish in 8 milliseconds, it means that it requires more time. Okay, so process is not over or it's not done IO, then it is moved to next level queue. Now here there's a Q1, it will get 16 milliseconds, and again this is this works in round robin way. Okay, and then if it does not, when it gets 16 milliseconds, it still does not finish, it means there's more computation to be done, then it moves to last queue. And then when it gets chance, here it has it will give this time quantum will be big enough for it to complete. It means that now until unless this queue is empty, CPU will not given to any of these here. And if this is all till if this is not empty, then CPU will not be given to any of the jobs here. It means that these two queues have to be empty for the CPU to be given to these processes. Okay. All right. Any question?
Sir, in case of infinite process,
In case
it,
of
some infinite process, infinitely running process.
okay.
First, it will be like assigned to Q0.
Yes.
Then, like after 8 seconds, it will assign to Q1.
Yes.
And sir, but if it is assigned to FCFS and it's preemptive scheduling, then how will the kernel regain the
So
control?
that's a problem. It will be a problem, right? Surely, it there are always corner cases. Okay, so in that case, maybe it should not do a first come first serve. Okay, but do something else. Okay, maybe it will do again increase time quantum and then it'll do round robin or something. So this is just a method. Maybe it's not applicable for processes that run forever. Otherwise, you mean to say is that the process will continue to run forever, right? So it will block. Yeah, there is a possibility of that, right? There's always a possibility because here it is run to completion. Okay. Now implementation can take care of many such corner cases that this is one example. This may not be a true implementation. Okay, so yes, you can get stuck, but here if you first come first serve, if you again say that time quantum is actually large, when we discuss, right, when in round robin and time quantum is fairly large, then it becomes first come first serve. Okay, so here we can say the time quantum is maybe say 1 minute or something like that. I don't know, it totally depends on algorithm. So but you are right, it can cause, in this particular example, if such job comes, could be a problem. Okay, and this problem does not solve the problem of starvation, because if the new processes are frequently created and they get assigned to top level queue, then control will never come down below. There is a continuous inflow here, right? Okay, any question? You can have variations here. You can think of multi-level of quantums, or maybe same quantum, or at the time of entering a process or inducting a process, maybe there is a priorities already assigned. They may put into different queues and so on. Okay, all right. Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. All right. So this we have already studied. So then what do you need to do? See, why we are given priority? See, priorities are, first thing, priorities, we need to prioritize. That's the fact of life. Okay, but priorities and priorities, the only relation here is that if we have dynamic priorities, then it will help. But this is still is not solving all the problem, because starvation can still exist. Okay, so solution of this, what we wanted to do is that we wanted to have good mix of CPU bound process and IO bound process. It means that non-interactive job and interactive jobs effectively for effective usage of hardware. So of course, the goal is that give IO bound process enough CPU time. Okay, and they issue IO requests, for example, file read or write or whatever, and in between give chance to other process. Okay. Okay, so basically, all right, and this is one goal, and second is that interactive ones should get enough CPU, right, such that they can quickly respond. All right, so these are the goals that you can have, and also depends on system, right? So what we are seeing here is that for normal system that we use, okay, but if we system is designed for to run certain kind of application, the scheduling algorithm has to be tailored for meeting those needs. Okay, now let's look at the next method in order to understand that, as we have discussed, that the computing needs are changing continuously, right? Because there has been tremendous change or improvements in technologies. Okay, as we see that and this basically because of Moore's law, which is shown here as a Bell's law, which says that new computer class emerges every 10 years. Okay, every 10 years there will be new technology which is very different from previous one. Okay, for example, there was mainframes, very large size computers. Actually, first it was kind of mechanical computers. Then came mainframe, then came mini frame, then workstations, then came PCs to IBM PCs. These were called IBM PCs. Then came laptops, and of course there is continuously improvement. For example, laptops become lighter laptops, more powerful laptops, multi-core laptops, and so on. Okay, but this is not considered as a quantum change. So next change was from laptop to PDAs. Okay, then cell phones. Cell phone itself is a computer today, and then from this we are moving to IoT, and we can see that number of computers per person about say 70 years back, 60-70 years back was one. There were in India just one computer. Around 60s, hardly one computer, right? And even when I completed my MTech, I joined MTech, there was just one computer in the whole University of Roorkee, which is IIT Roorkee. Just one computer. Okay. So that was a scenario in 80s, even 80s, right? And now what we have is everyone is having at least more than one computer. Okay, today each one of you must be having more than one computer, not only laptop. Some of you may also have desktop, may also have mobile phones, may also have PDA or iPad or whatever, right? And then sooner or later we will reach a situation where we will have almost like 1,000 computing units per person when we'll have IoT. Like your next car that you buy, possibly will have at least 50-60 computers inside. Okay. All right, now with this, now why are we discussing this? We are studying scheduling, right? Because now scheduling algorithm that was there at this time or for mainframe was very different. I mean, that time I submitted my job using punch cards, and as a user, my expectation was that the results will be available to me after say 6-7 hours. Okay, that was my expectation. And the computer center guy or the manager of computer center, his expectation was that he wants to complete maximum number of batch jobs. Okay, so the scheduling algorithm that point would be very different. Actually, scheduling is done manual scheduling at that point. When mini computers came, right, again mini computers were shared among multiple users, then then scheduling algorithm would have totally different perspective. And today on your mobile phone, scheduling algorithm will be very different because there are 50 applications running, but only single user. Okay, your laptop will have different scheduling algorithm than your mobile algorithm, mobile phone. The requirements are very different, right? So all along the time, the scheduling algorithm also evolved or changed to meet the needs of that time or that era. Okay. So now let's look at one scheduling algorithm. Okay, which is and this points all we have discussed. Okay, as we have moved in from top to bottom, we'll have to see. We will see. We have seen that the algorithm changed. For example, today all of us are using cloud, which is a data center, right? Cloud is hosted over multiple data centers. Each data center has, say, for example, 100,000 plus computers. Okay. Now, what kind of scheduling algorithm will be used in there? Are they bothered, data center manager or designer, are they bothered about utilization? Yes, they will be bothered about utilization. But utilization for whom? Users. So what is your expectation out of, say, when you open Gmail? What is your expectation? Quick response, right? Within some time, some kind of performance guarantees. Okay. So my requirement today from cloud is that I should get response. Whatever they do. I should get results within some time. Say, for example, you make a Google search. You're not going, and it's very interesting that you should. I don't know whether you have covered this in your some course or other. How does this whole searching happens? Do they say, suppose you search, say, your name? Does it mean that all these searches are happening now, or whatever the documents are available all over the world? No. So the data corresponding to these things are collected and kept in a very efficient way, such that for you as a user, when you are making search, results should be available within some time. Otherwise, you will not wait for results to appear after 5 minutes. Okay. So your requirement at this point in time is predictability. And for your laptops, you have totally different requirements. So scheduling algorithm has to change accordingly. Okay. So scheduling algorithm will not remain the same. For IoT system, it will be totally different scheduling algorithm. All right. So there's a point that we want to highlight. Okay. Any question?
Sir, which scheduling algorithm do we use in modern computers?
That you will have to
Is
figure
there-
it out. So Windows will have different scheduling algorithm than Linux, and we will read in the next class about Linux scheduling algorithm. Okay. So just wait
Okay.
till tomorrow.
Okay.
So if you just think through, what should it have? Now we have studied almost all the scheduling algorithms, right? Basic types. It has to have some element of round robin. Okay, it has got to have something around priority. So we'll see. Okay, let's look at now the last algorithm that we will study. Okay. So the question is that does prioritizing some jobs necessarily starve that are not prioritized? So we have seen even we change the priority dynamically, some jobs starve. So is there a way that as soon as job enters, there is some guarantee, not really true guarantee, but some predictability that this job will get a chance to run, or even though it has very compute intensive or long running job or whatever. What can we do? Any thought that comes to your mind? How can you solve this problem? Okay, let's look at this scheme. It's called proportional share scheduling. Okay. So far we have studied, we prefer give CPU to prioritize job with some priority. Okay. So instead we can share CPU proportionally. Okay, so it means that now give each job a share of CPU according to its priority. Okay. So low priority jobs get to run less often, but they run. Okay, high priority jobs get more time to run. That's it. But everyone gets a chance. So in this case, all jobs will make a progress. No starvation. So this method is called lottery scheduling or fair share scheduling. Okay, very simple. All right. So now let's assume there are two jobs, A and B, and we want to give job A 50% of the time of CPU. Okay, so there are three jobs, A, B, C. So 50% to job, we want to give it to job A, 30% to job B, and 20% to job C. So it's shown here. Okay. Now, what we do is that give each job, let's say for example, job A, say tickets proportional to priority. Okay. So it means that now A has highest priority, which is 50% time we want to give. So we'll give 5 tickets. Okay, the one here. And the blue one, job B, we want to give 30% time, so we give 3 tickets, and the yellow one gets 2 tickets. Okay, now you draw this CPU, sorry, the scheduler will draw one of these tickets randomly, like a lottery. Let's assume that this guy gets a ticket, this ticket is chosen. Then this job, which is job A, is given CPU for a quantum of time. Okay, now that ticket is removed, the remaining tickets again randomly draw one, and let's assume that the blue one is picked up. Give this time slice to blue one, and then randomly pick it up. There's a possibility that first first ticket will be red, second ticket may be red, then blue, maybe yellow, whatever. I mean, it's just lottery, you're just picking up at a random. But in longer period of time, you will see it's kind of fair. Okay. So now we are using randomness here. Okay, which ticket to pick up, and then good random number generator will really help. All right. All right. So the rest of these are details. Okay. So now again to repeat, give each job some number of lottery tickets depending on some policy which you can decide as a user. At each time slice, randomly pick up a winning ticket. Okay, and then give that ticket owner a chance to run. And on average, CPU time is proportional to number of tickets given to each job. All right. If the one which has maximum number of tickets, like in a previous example, then randomly it will get maximum opportunity to use CPU. But it is not the exact science here. You cannot say that ratio will exactly be the same, 50%, 30%, 20%. It could be, it can differ slightly because ultimately lottery, but at least the one which has lowest priority, like yellow ones, will get a chance to run, because statistically the ticket corresponding yellow will be picked up. Okay, any question?
Sir, after picking a ticket, sir, we will decrease the number of ticket of the
Of
job
course.
or
Yeah, otherwise it will not work, no?
yes.
It will not work. Okay, all right. So these are all details. We'll come back to this one later. So let's look at one simple example. Assume that a short job gets 10 tickets and long job gets 1 ticket. So there are total 11. So it means that we want to give more priority to short jobs. So give more tickets to it until it finishes. Okay, once it finishes, of course, ticket also goes off. Okay, so now let's look at this chart. So this shows the number of short jobs divided by number of long jobs. Okay, so there is one short job, one long job. Then percentage of CPU that short job gets is 91%, and percentage of CPU which long job gets is 9%. Okay, because each will have, the one which is shortest job will have 10 tickets, the one which has long job will get 1 ticket. And then if you change this, number of short job is equal to 0, long job is 2, then each long job gets CPU for approximately 50% of time, and so on and so forth. So we can see that if number of short jobs is 10 and long job is 1, okay, then 9 point, wow, okay, oh, each short job, okay, all right, I'm not sorry, it's not total. So each short job gets, because there are 10 jobs, so each short job gets 9.9% time CPU, while each long job gets 0.99% of CPU, and so on. Because now these are 10 jobs, so correspondingly you can multiply total time short jobs will get. Okay, and if there is one short job and 10 long jobs, then we can see that 50% time short job will get a time to run, while 5% time each long job will get a time on CPU to run. All right. So what do we? So now the method is very simple. By giving lottery tickets, and this policy could be yours. How much lottery tickets you want to give to each process? It means that how much priority you want to provide to each one. You can give number of tickets, but it has to be some right method. Okay, for example, if there are two processes and you give one 10,000 tickets and other one you give 1 ticket, then you are actually causing starvation for other, right? Very less chance, very rarely that this will get scheduled. Probability is very low. So this has to, then it depends on user, how to provide tickets. Okay, all right. So fairness, you can calculate the fairness. Is it really fair method? Because it's all based on statistics, right? Or random number generator, right? So you can do this experiment and then you can see that say for example, if we define the fairness matrix as F, okay, and then we calculate F as time the first job completes and time the second job completes, assuming that there are two jobs competing with each other and each gets same number of tickets, 100. So there are two jobs, each has 100 tickets and both run for time R. Okay, so if let's assume that two jobs and each takes say 10 milliseconds to run, and first job completes at 10 and second job's complete at time 20. Okay, then F is equal to 10 by 20 is 0.5. Fairness is just 0.5. Okay, note that each job is having 100 tickets. So whenever ticket comes, job runs. And if there are two jobs, it means that depending on what ticket what color ticket is drawn, they will run. And if it happens that first job overall completes after consuming tickets, etc., at time 10 and second completes 20, then fairness is very low. Okay, 0.5. And when both finish nearly at the same time, where we note the word nearly, then f is equal to 1, because obviously one will finish before other. So, but it's almost the same. Then fairness is 1. So we can do the simulation, and we can see that as we job length changes, if job length is very, very small, then obviously one job gets priority over other, and so on. So it will start from 0.5. It's a very small time quantum it runs, then first job completes and then second completes, fairness will be, ideally both should finish almost at same time, but because quantum is small, first job finishes first, second, it's almost fairness 0.5. But as we increase the job length, we will say it will almost reach 1. Okay, so this method works. Okay, all right. And the next question is that how to assign tickets. Now, as a user, you can come out with your own policy. If you want to give short process a priority, then give more tickets than long process, and so on. All right, and you can also change this method dynamically as well. All right. How do you assign ticket? Of course, is your own decisions, or it remains, problem is open. You can decide how do you want to give. All right. Okay. To conclude, oh, before that, any question you have?
Yes, sir. Sir, in that example where we are giving 10 tickets to the short job and 1 ticket to the long job.
The earlier
Sir,
one, huh?
yes, sir. Sir, if we by random take the long job first, then it has only 1 ticket. So if the quantum is finished and the long job is not finished, so how will it get scheduled next?
No, look at this way. Okay. All right. So you are actually asking a very different question. Okay. So that's your choice, right? About how many tickets to give. This is just an example. Don't give 1 ticket. If you think job is not able, see, it's just to prioritize. You give, for example, this is a proportion. For example, you give, you see here, you mean to say is there is a 1 job in this case, right? And then ticket one, it gets 1 ticket, and then ticket is over, it does not complete job, then what will happen? That's your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then this method is not working. So you have to assign proper number of tickets and proper quantum. That's simple. That's how
Okay.
you do simulations, right?
Okay, sir.
Example here is just to tell you what proportion of CPU each job will get. That this is just to illustrate the point. Now, how actual policy you do, that depends on you. This may not work. If this is a proportion of short and long job, and you give 1 ticket to long job, and then ticket and quantum is small, job does not get completed, then your whole method doesn't work for you. Then you have to change the method. There are a number of ways you can give more ticket, change the time quantum, whatever you play with all these parameters, and then come out with what is right. Okay, this, no, don't think that this is the end solution. This just illustrates if this is the proportion, and this is number of tickets given to long and short and long job, what percentage of time each job will get. Where short job will get 9.9 and long term job will get 0.99. So if job doesn't get complete, this doesn't work. That's okay, that's fine. Good question though. All right.
Sir,
Yeah.
I also have a similar doubt. So, like in round robin, let's suppose our quantum is very less, and a process needs to run an atomic operation, and in middle, like the time gets ended. Then what will happen with the process as atomic operation?
Yeah, atomic operation. So atomic operation will start when the next time it gets time. Okay, we studied that, right? So basically lock will remain there. No. Okay, so see, we create atomicity because using locks, right? Or there are methods like test and set, etc. Okay, in test and set type of instructions, if you are using, then hardware takes care of that by disabling interrupts. Okay, and making sure this instruction completes, only then the context which happens. Now let's assume that there are a set of instructions which you want to execute once and no other process executes those instructions, and you are trying to achieve the impact of atomicity. The lock, as soon as lock is there, then no other process can execute the lock. If one the process holding lock is context switch, okay, the lock will remain there, and when it is brought in back, that process brought in back, the execution starts from there. So hence there can be problem of deadlocks, etc. That needs to be avoided. You understood?
Yes, sir. Got it.
See, atomicity is because of what? Either you say that whole instruction executes. The instruction level atomicity is different from multiple instruction level atomicity. Okay. When you say multiple instructions should either execute, only one process should execute. Okay, then issue is different. In single instruction, of course, is a number of instructions are defined by hardware, which are atomic by nature. For that, hardware takes care of that. Okay. Okay, so lock is very important to use lock appropriately, otherwise it can cause deadlocks. Okay, to complete our discussion, so we have today discussed multi-level queue, which has feedback. It means that we can dynamically change the priority. Okay, and then we have seen, even though it's a nice method, but it still does not fix the problem of starvation. And then we have seen that one way to take care of this is using proportional share, something called lottery scheduling. Okay, wherein depending on importance of the process, we give number of tickets, and then it means the less important process will get less tickets. Okay, but because the randomly drawn tickets, so there's a good probability that process holding less tickets will also get a chance to run. Okay, so the randomness here plays important role, and hence proper random number generator should be there. Okay, all right. Okay. Any question? Okay, you go through this details of this algorithm from book, you will understand it better. All right, thank you.
Thanks, sir.